Why, just a second ago, I was filled with self loathing. And all I did was flip the old self love switch on, and now I'm just totally in love with who I am, drinking more water, exercising, walking away from people who treat me like crap, and telling myself I'm important and valuable at least 500 times a day.
A Spiritual Shitshow podcast with Suzanne Soul, episode number 18.
Hey, hot stuff, and welcome to the Spiritual Shitshow podcast, where we get into the total fiasco the healing and spiritual awakening journey can be. I'm your host, Suzanne Soul, comedian, lifelong spiritual student, and I'm sharing some of the gorgeous pearls I've learned along my journey that have helped me and that I hope help you too. Thich Nhat Hanh, Buddhist monk and teacher, said, "To love oneself is the beginning of a lifelong romance." Self, there's something I want to tell you. What is it? Here's the thing. I just can't keep it to myself anymore, and I don't care what anyone says about it, or how upset they get, or how much they make fun of me or anything. Well, what is it, for crying out loud? The thing is, I love you. I mean me. I mean us. I mean myself. And there's not a damn thing anybody can do about it. I found the greatest love of all inside of me. The greatest love of all. Sorry, I had to. Self-love is not just a feeling, it's a relationship. And not to sound like an international coffee commercial from the 1980s, but it's the most important and memorable relationship you will ever have. I mean, do you hear that? The most important relationship you'll ever have. More important than the most important relationships in your life. Like your most important people, your spouse, your children, your parents, your bestie, your situationship you keep letting back in because I just can't quit you. The Buddha said, you yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection. Self-love is one of those things everyone agrees is important, like drinking water or getting enough sleep. But despite knowing this, most people struggle with it. We know we should love ourselves, but then we remember that time we said, you too, when the waiter told us to enjoy our meal. Or that time we missed the train on the way to that job interview. Or that awful thing we said that we wish we could take back. And suddenly, self-loathing feels like a more natural choice. Paramahansa Yogananda said, self-love is the first step to divine love. Self-love is one of those spiritual concepts that sounds beautiful in theory, like inner peace or forgiving your enemies, but in practice often feels really fucking hard. Like, how are we supposed to embrace ourselves as divine beings of light when we just sent a sexy text to the wrong person? And now we want to dig a hole and live in it forever. And yet every mystic, guru, and old lady who talks to birds in the park insists that loving yourself is the foundation of all things good. They say the universe is a reflection of your inner world. So if you want abundance, joy, and enlightenment, you have to start with yourself, which is not easy or convenient. And wouldn't it be much easier if the universe would just mail us a certificate proving our worthiness instead? So now you might be like, okay, Miss Smarty Pants, so what exactly is self-love anyways? Oh, thanks for asking. Self-love is actually really cool. It's the way you speak to yourself in quiet moments, the way you care for yourself when no one is watching, and the way you hold space for your own heart, even when everyone around you is being really hard on you. It's not vanity. It is a deep and sacred understanding that you are worthy of kindness, tenderness, and joy, simply because you exist. It is giving yourself grace when you stumble, patience when you struggle, and celebration when you shine. It's trusting your own voice, even when the world tries to drown it out. And it's knowing that you are not defined by your past, your mistakes, or anyone else's opinion of you. As much as doing sweet things for yourself, like giving yourself gifts, taking yourself on artist dates, and getting massages are all wonderful, and totes keep it up, babe. The real work of loving yourself, and that which has the greatest effect, is the compassion and understanding you show yourself, the hard decisions you make in the name of your well being, and your ability to forgive yourself. I know. It's like, can't I just take a walk in nature and call it a day? Not if you want to experience true self love, you can't. It also isn't about only doing what feels good. Because if that were true, self love would mean eating cake for breakfast every day. And while that sounds amazeballs, and you do you, but a hedonistic only approach to self love might lead to some questionable life choices. You know what I mean? And as much as going on your own fear and loathing in Las Vegas adventure might be mind blowing, most of the time self love involves discipline. Going to bed early, saying no to toxic relationships, and not letting the voice in your head talk to you like a mean middle schooler. Because those guys are mean. And disclaimer, self love is not narcissism. Narcissism is thinking you're perfect and that you should be worshiped accordingly. Self love is knowing you're imperfect and still treating yourself like someone worthy of respect, kindness, and love. But BT dubs, if you are worried you're being selfish or narcissistic, congratulations. Selfish people don't sit around wondering if they're selfish. Psychologist and author Eric Fromm believed loving oneself is the bedrock of truly being able to love anyone else by saying, if an individual is able to love productively, he loves himself too. If he can only love others, he cannot love at all. And I gotta tell you, I agree with this. Even good old Mr. Rogers said, you can't really love someone else unless you really love yourself first. And that means learning to love all of ourselves unconditionally. Think about it. If love were conditional, it wouldn't be love, it would be a business transaction. And yet, so many of us treat ourselves like we have to meet certain requirements before we deserve our own kindness. I'll love myself when I lose 25 pounds. I'll love myself when I stop being socially awkward. I'll love myself when I have a 6-figure income, flawless skin, and the ability to poop faster. But that's nonsense. Imagine telling a puppy, listen, you puppy, I'll love you once you stop tripping over your own feet and falling, even though it's really freaking cute. I mean, that would be ridiculous. You love the puppy because it's a mess, not in spite of it. Love is a verb, kids. And as we all know, a verb is an action word. So self-love is a live action experience. It's waking up each day and choosing again and again to embrace the person you are and are becoming, even when you feel messy or uncertain or unfinished, and to meet yourself exactly where you are without judgment or condition. Because some days you might wake up and feel like a radiant, unstoppable force of nature. And other days you might look in the mirror and wonder how you messed your life up so bad. And that's okay. Because true self-love is unconditional. It's not about liking yourself only when you're perfect. It's about embracing the fact that you are a glorious, occasionally ridiculous, ever-evolving work in progress. Some days self-love is a celebration. Other days it's more like a whispered, it's okay. We'll do better next time. Showing up, choosing kindness, and remembering that even on the hard days, you are absolutely worth it. Self-love isn't about perfection. It's not about achieving some enlightened state where you float through life unbothered and glowing like a well-moisturized angel. The true grit of self-love is self-acceptance. Learning to make peace with who you are, all of yourself exactly as you are, without constantly trying to trade yourself in for a newer, shinier version of you. Disclaimer, not saying that growing, evolving, becoming stronger and smarter isn't awesome, because it totes is. But it's important to notice your intention behind it. Are you doing it to enjoy the journey and experience of being even more amazeballs? Awesome sauce. Or are you trying to run away from yourself by trying to become someone else because you feel like poo? If your answer is, I think I'm doing the run away from myself one, it might be a good idea to throw some healing modalities in the mix so you can learn that you are deserving of love before during, and after. Okay, so now you might be like, okay, motherfucker, if our relationship with ourselves is so fucking important, why do so many of us have shitty to mediocre relationships with ourselves and don't understand how important self love actually is? Great question. We always hear people say, you have to love yourself first, as if it's as easy as flipping a switch. Why, just a second ago, I was filled with self loathing, and all I did was flip the old self love switch on, and now I'm just totally in love with who I am, drinking more water, exercising, walking away from people who treat me like crap, and telling myself I'm important and valuable at least 500 times a day. JK, that'd be awesome though, but unfortunately, you can't just flip a switch and that's it for the rest of your life. It's more like a process. Many people struggle in their relationship with themselves because from an early age they are taught to seek love, validation, and approval from the outside world rather than from within. We grow up absorbing messages that tell us we must earn our worth through achievements, appearances, and the approval of others. Over time, these messages become the voice inside our heads, whispering that we are only as good as our successes and as lovable as we are perfect. Some of us have never been taught how to love ourselves. We know how to be kind to friends, how to encourage others, how to forgive mistakes when they belong to someone else. But when it comes to ourselves, we often default to criticism and impatience. If we spoke to others the way we speak to ourselves, we'd probably get unfriended immediately. We have the unfortunate tendency to be our own worst critics, holding ourselves to impossible standards and replaying past mistakes like they're our personal greatest hits, and comparing our behind the scenes reality to everyone else's highlight reel. Most of the time, we focus more on our flaws than on our strengths, our failures more than our triumphs, and because we spend every waking moment inside our own noggins, we have a front row seat to all our doubts, fears, and awkward moments, things no one else even notices, but which we magnify like they define us. It's easy to love other people because we don't have access to their inner monologues, because if we did, we'd probably find out that everyone else is lying awake at 2 a.m. thinking, I can't believe I said that to her. Swiss psychologist and author Carl Jung said, the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. Jung believed that true self love doesn't come from striving for perfection, but from accepting ourselves fully, the good, the bad, and the messy. Because most of us resist the parts of ourselves we find unworthy or shameful. Truly loving yourself means embracing all aspects of who you are, including the parts of you that might have been rejected or unacceptable when you were growing up. Jung believed self love is achieved through radical self acceptance and embracing even our dark shadow parts, inviting all parts of who we are to the table and becoming the fullest expression of our true self. Story time. My journey to self love has been the greatest challenge of my life. It has been a long, hard road. Just getting myself to be open to the idea of loving myself was like being in the ring with Mike Tyson. Not only did I not love myself, I outright hated myself. Growing up, I had never even heard of the idea that you're supposed to love yourself. I heard a lot about what was wrong with me, or why I should be ashamed of myself, or that I was not a good or worthy person, but never that I should love myself. And I know I'm not alone. When I think about it now, I understand that in our childhood, our caregivers can only teach us what they know, and many do the best they can. But at the same time, thinking about the idea that knowingly or unknowingly, some folks are sending their children out into a world that tells them you should know how to take care of yourself and you should know how to make choices that are in your best interest, when many children have not been taught how to love or value themselves, or worse, been made to believe they don't deserve to be loved, seems like the greatest riddle of our time. I believed the suffering I experienced in my life was my fault, that it happened because of who I was. I believed I was the worst thing that ever happened to anyone, most especially myself. And it felt like having to be me was an unfortunate burden. I believed that any cruelty, shame, neglect, failure, or rejection I experienced was because of who I was, and that I deserved to be mistreated, disrespected, ignored, blamed, and despised. And I blamed myself when other people treated me poorly. I put no responsibility on others for how they treated me. It was that bad. I believed I was ugly, stupid, embarrassing, an idiot. I was ashamed of myself, and I couldn't even stand being myself. I was in deep, deep pain. The beliefs I had about myself left me feeling so ashamed. I felt too ashamed and afraid to let anyone love me. And with all that, I don't know why, but there was just something in me that kept urging me on to fight my way out of my pain and suffering. And as I got older, I began to see how not loving or valuing myself had put me in many bad and harmful situations. And once I saw that, I realized I had to figure out, or at least I had to try to learn to love myself, or at least stop hating myself. I went to therapy, I journaled, read self help books, watched self help videos, took in spiritual teachings, went to spiritual counsel, recovery programs, and the 12 steps you name it, I tried it. And it has been a decades long battle, and it has been messy, and it has not always been a straight line or gone in a forward direction. And I'm not perfect at it. I have gotten to a place where I can say that I love myself. I value my life and my time enough to walk away from people who disrespect or mistreat me, and I no longer blame myself. And I am okay if someone doesn't like me because I like and love me. And honestly, it really is true that it is the most important thing, because learning to love and value myself has allowed me to be a more kind, loving, and understanding person to others, because I no longer have such a desperate demand of other people to make up for my self hatred. They are free to be who they are because I know I can rely on myself and take care of my feelings and my heart. And it doesn't mean that I don't need people in my life. It just means that I don't need people to save me from drowning in my own self loathing. And if that is where you are right now, take heart. Many of us have been there, and you're not alone. And one step at a time, you can start to heal your heart. I promise you, it is possible. If I was able to do it from a place of such deep self loathing, anyone can do it. And I truly believe that. And the gifts that come from your journey to self love will be so very great and bring you and so many others so many blessings. I wanted to share my experience because if you are in a place where you are hating yourself or don't believe you are worthy of being loved, I want to tell you that it's just a hurt feeling. I'm not trying to minimize it because I know how much it runs your life and causes incredible suffering. But if seeing self hatred as a feeling of pain and not as a reality or truth about who you are can allow just enough space between you and the self hatred for you to experience yourself as the light and life force that you truly are, beyond any identification or belief, that's how you start. Who we are deep down in our eternal essence is not our personality or history or what someone said about us or how they treated us. It is pure light and pure love and pure power. And while we heal, we can lean into this knowing about ourselves and get a reprieve from the long, hard, but rewarding journey to self love. And you can love yourself while you hate yourself. Ram Dass, spiritual teacher and author of the book Be Here Now, said, "You may protest, but what if I hate myself?" Well, start with that. Start with loving the part of you that hates yourself. You are already worthy right now, exactly as you are, with all your quirks and doubts and that one embarrassing thing you did in 2008, which still makes you cringe when you think about it. You don't have to earn self love or hit a certain level of enlightenment, productivity, or general togetherness before you qualify. There is no cosmic application process where you must prove you are flawless before receiving the gift of your own affection. Despite what that gremlin voice in your head might sometimes say, you are supposed to be here as you, because you are. And you are not a walking list of imperfections that needs to be fixed. You are a living, breathing expression of something vast and beautiful. And the sooner you stop treating yourself like a problem to be solved, the more fun you can have. That's right, you heard me. Fun. Because self-love is not just about discipline and healing. It's also about enjoying your own company, laughing at your own jokes, dancing in your kitchen because you feel like it. Life is too short to be your own worst enemy. Deep down on a soul level, you already love yourself. Your higher self isn't sitting around thinking, wow, I really messed up that conversation 5 years ago. No, your higher self is just vibing, completely at peace with your journey, watching you spiral over nothing and patiently waiting for you to remember who you are. The problem is the ego is so fucking loud. It's like, hey, ego, could you keep it down? I'm trying to love myself over here. In the book of Matthew, Jesus said, look at the birds of the air. They do not sow or reap or store away in barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not much more valuable than they? In your imperfect humanity, you are worthy of your own love. Right the fuck now. It means embracing the fact that yes, you have quirks. You get weirdly passionate about things no one else cares about. You overthink emails. And guess what? That's what makes you you. If you were flawless, you'd be boring. And nobody wants that. The moment you stop fighting yourself, everything gets easier. You don't waste your energy pretending to be something you're not. You don't walk around narrating your own shortcomings like a sportscaster. You just exist. Messy, wonderful, complicated, and completely enough. And the best part? When you accept yourself, you give other people permission to do the same. Because let's face it, if the world needs anything now, it's more people who are unapologetically themselves. I think loving yourself is a two-parter. One part is compassionately loving and accepting your human self and your humanity. And the other parter is loving and honoring the divine grace that exists within you, that magnificent spiritual essence of your being, and the grace of God that lives within and as you. Hey. Okay, I know you're probably like, hey girl, are you going to give us some tips on how to love ourselves and make it a two-parter? Yes, Queen, I am. Here we go. Here are some tips for loving your sweet ass human self. Try to start talking to yourself like you're someone you love. If you wouldn't call your friend an idiot for making a mistake, why do it to yourself? Just notice every time you do it. Maybe you can say, oops, sorry about that. And yes, you will fuck that shit up a bazillion times, babe. But just keep that energy going and you'll start to do it less. Forgive yourself for your mistakes. Whatever it is that you keep replaying in your head, try to be more compassionate and understanding to yourself. Say, yes, we could have done that better, but we did our best at the time. And try to believe that that is the truth because it actually is fucking the truth. Stop using other people as a measuring stick. Comparison is a losing game, babe, because our lives go in cycles. When you're up, someone else might be down. But just know that tide is going to fucking turn without a doubt. And then you'll be fucked up and they'll be like, I'm living my best life. And then it will go back around again. So it's just silly to compare. I mean, I get it. We do it. But just try to notice that it's kind of pointless. Take care of yourself by giving yourself love, attention, and kindness. Self-love isn't just a feeling, it's a practice. When you show up for yourself, whether it's through creativity, movement, or setting boundaries, you start to trust yourself. And trust builds love, babe. Be chill. You don't have to arrive at self-love. There's no final exam. Some days will be easier than others, and that's okay. The goal isn't perfection, it's progress. And now the second part, honoring and loving the spiritual essence of your being and the divine grace within you is a deeply luscious way to practice self-love. It's about honoring your sacredness and inherent worthiness of love simply because you exist. Here's some cute-ass ways to honor your divine essence as an act of self-love. See yourself as a divine creation. Divine grace dwells within you and is your natural state of being. Lean into that deliciousness, babe. Cultivate sacred silence and stillness. Taking time each day for meditation, prayer, or quiet contemplation allows you to reconnect with your true self beyond the noise of the world. Even a few minutes of deep breathing or sitting in silence can bring clarity, peace, and self-acceptance. Speak to yourself like a loving guide. If the divine is within you, then you have direct access, boo. Something I like to do is journal a dialogue between me and my divine self. And girl, my divine self has divine knowledge, babe, okay? And I'm not playing about that. Practice gratitude for your divinity. Give thanks for your divine spiritual nature, for being a wave in the divine ocean. See the divine in others and yourself. When you look at another person and see their inherent worth and divinity, you can feel it by osmosis. Self-love is not separate from universal love. When you honor the divine within you, you naturally radiate more love outward, because we're all connected, motherfucker. The truth is, the relationship you have with yourself is the most important one you'll ever have. It shapes how you experience life, how you treat others, and what you believe you deserve. And like any relationship, it requires care, understanding, and a willingness to make it a lifelong priority in your life. Because at the end of the day, you are the person you will be with for every single moment of your life. So learning to love, accept, and be kind to yourself is not just a luxury, it's a necessity. Author and sociologist Brené Brown said, "Love is not something we give or get. It is something that we nurture and grow. A connection that can only be cultivated between two people when it exists within each one of them. We can only love others as much as we love ourselves." Okay, you gorgeous little minxes. This has been the Spiritual Shit Show podcast. I'm Suzanne Soul, and it has been my motherfucking pleasure to talk at you about love in this love series. I love you so much, and don't you forget it. And I will see you on the next one. Darling, roll it. I love myself, and then I love you to roll it.